This is Dreams of History, where the night remembers everything the light forgot. Close your eyes, let the present fall away. The air around you thickens, warm and ancient, scented with dust and rain that hasn't fallen in 10,000 years. In that stillness, something waits, a pulse beneath the silence. You can almost feel the ground breathing. Long before the first pyramid rose out of sand, before Egypt had a name, before time learned to count itself, there was another world. It glittered between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Its people called themselves Sumerians, and they said their kings did not come from earth. They said kingship descended from heaven. The first tablets that told this story were small, no larger than a man's hand, pressed with wedge-shaped marks like tiny mountains. At first, the archaeologists thought they were lists of grain, but when they learned to read the signs, they realized they held a story older than memory. 8 kings ruled before the flood. 8 names carved in clay. Their reign stretched for 200 years. Then the waters came and swept the world away. When the waters fell silent, kingship came down again from the sky. The scholars laughed. How could anyone rule that long? But somewhere beneath their laughter, a tremor lingered. Because the math was wrong, yet the pattern was too perfect to ignore. Every name aligned with a star. Every star matched the path of a planet that returns only once in an age. Maybe the numbers were not years. Maybe they were cycles. Maybe they were warnings. The desert of southern Iraq is flat, empty, endless. But when you stand in the ruins of Eridu under the moon, you feel watched. Not by ghosts, but by something older. As if the air still remembers the weight of those who once ruled here. The wind slides through broken walls, and for a heartbeat it sounds like breathing. The tablets call them Anunnaki, those who came from the sky. They were not ethereal spirits. They had bodies, voices, tempers. They ate bread and drank wine. They loved and fought, and they taught men to build. Enki, Lord of the Deep Waters, was their engineer. He shaped the first canals, drew lines where rivers should flow, and taught men to count the rhythm of the seasons. But the work was heavy even for gods, and Enki conceived a plan to lighten their burden. He went to the banks of the river, took clay still wet with life, and mixed it with the essence of the gods. From that mixture came a being both weak and curious, human. The first word it spoke was not a prayer but a question. Questions have power. Enlil, Enki's brother, feared that power. He saw humans learning, copying, dreaming. He saw their eyes turn toward the heavens, and he said, "Man should serve, not remember." But Enki smiled. "Even gods," he said, "cannot command what they create to forget." That was the first rebellion. Not of swords, but of thought. And thought spreads like fire. Within generations, men built cities, temples that mirrored the constellations, stairways that reached for the sky. The Anunnaki watched and wondered whether they had made servants or successors. Then something changed. The stars shifted. A crimson light appeared at the edge of the heavens, moving against the pattern of all others. The priests named it Nibiru, the crossing star, the home of the gods. Each time it neared, storms tore across the earth. Seas rose, mountains shuddered. The gods argued. Enlil said the world must be cleansed. Enki begged to spare the humans. And then came the flood. The rain fell not from clouds, but from the very sky breaking open. The ground split. The rivers swallowed the cities. For 40 days the world drowned. When the waters receded, the air smelled of salt and silence. The temples were gone. The people scattered. The gods vanished into the mist. But the story remained, whispered from father to son, sung by shepherds who no longer remembered what the words meant. Until one day, a man in a museum basement brushed dust from a tablet and read those words again. He didn't know it, but when his lips formed the name Anunnaki, he completed a circle that had taken 5,000 years to close. The clay, the code, the breath, all waiting for a voice. The hum returns. low and steady. You feel it under your ribs. It isn't sound, it's memory. It's the vibration of a world that once believed its gods were real. And maybe they were, maybe they are. The flood had ended, but the world that rose from its silence was not the same. The air was heavy with memory, and the rivers carried pieces of the old world, bits of clay tablets, fragments of walls, bones polished smooth by water. The few who survived stood among ruins that once shone with divine light, and they wondered if they had dreamed it all. But dreams, like rivers, leave marks. And when the floodwaters dried, those marks became lines upon the earth. Roads, ziggurats, patterns no storm could erase. The humans who remained followed those lines, guided by something they couldn't name, something written deep inside them. At night, they would look to the stars and whisper names they no longer understood. Enki, Enlil, Nibiru, the Shining Ones. Their children repeated the sounds until the meanings faded, until gods became myths and myths became bedtime stories. But the stories never disappeared, because stories are not just words. They are survival, memory's shadow, and memory never dies. In the heart of what would become Sumer, the survivors built again. Mud and reed became walls, and walls became cities. Uruk, Kish, Lagash, each one born from dust but raised like a prayer. They said they built for themselves, yet every structure looked skyward. Every temple rose in the exact ratio of the heavens, as if their hands remembered what their minds had forgotten. And then one night, under a sky clear as glass, a new light appeared above the horizon. It did not move like a star. It did not flicker like fire. It glowed steady, a pale cold white watching. The elders fell to their knees. The scribes took clay and pressed new symbols, marks that translated centuries later to only one phrase. They have returned. But what returned was not gods. It was memory. For each generation that looked up at the same stars, the same questions awoke. Who made us? Why here? Why this longing for what lies beyond the sky? And with those questions came something new, the hunger to build higher, to reach further, to recreate what was once given. The priests said the Anunnaki would come again when the sky opened twice. No one knew what that meant, yet the saying passed through centuries like a quiet countdown. When kings rose, they claimed descent from the gods. When they fell, new kings took their place, each one building taller towers to prove his closeness to the heavens. And so began the race that never ended, the race to touch the divine. The Sumerians created language not only to speak, but to remember. They wrote lists of stars, the cycles of the moon, the paths of storms. But among the tablets of numbers and harvests, there were other records, strange hymns carved with reverence and fear. They told of glowing discs that hummed above the temples, of beings whose eyes shone like polished copper, of voices that came from pillars of light. The scribes called them ships of heaven. And though the centuries turned their stories into metaphor, the precision of their words still troubles those who read them. Too exact for poetry, too consistent for dream. In time, the gods who once walked among men became unreachable. The Anunnaki were remembered as constellations, their names mapped to the stars they once claimed as home. Orion, Sirius, the Pleiades, the same sky, the same geometry. But in the myths, the heavens are never still. The gods sleep, but the world still hears their echo. Sometimes that echo hides in our blood. Tiny patterns in the spiral of life that do not belong. Sequences that science calls anomalies. Fragments that came from nowhere. Perhaps they are not mistakes. Perhaps they are the oldest inscriptions of all. A traveler walks through the desert, alone beneath the constellations. He carries a torch, though there is no one to see its light. Every few miles, he finds shards of pottery, pieces of statues melted by heat that no sun could make. He kneels, brushes sand from the fragments, and for a moment he feels the same hum that once filled the temples. He does not know what it is. He only knows that it feels familiar, as if he has heard it before. In a dream he never understood. He looks to the horizon, and the sky looks back. The night seems to breathe. A ripple moves across the stars, faint, slow, like a heartbeat. Then silence, always silence. When morning comes, the desert is still. The traveler leaves no footprints. The wind takes them as soon as they fall. But where he walked, the sand glitters faintly, as though remembering light. Back in the city, among crowds and screens and neon, a scientist stares at a computer model of the Sumerian king list. The numbers confuse her. 241 to 200 years. She adjusts the scale, divides, multiplies, runs simulation after simulation, until one pattern matches a known cycle. The orbital period of a distant object beyond Neptune, an object astronomers sometimes call Planet 9. She leans back, her eyes wide in the glow of the monitor. Outside her window, thunder rolls without clouds. She tells herself it's coincidence, but the hum in her chest says otherwise. Maybe kingship truly did descend from heaven. Maybe it's waiting to rise again. Somewhere, in a chamber no one has found, a mechanism stirs. Metal touches stone. Light runs like liquid through forgotten circuits. A tablet, the color of midnight, wakes and breathes a pulse. The voice that once spoke to the first king speaks again, too low for ears to hear, but not too low for memory. It says, "Remember us." The voice fades again, swallowed by the weight of centuries, but something in the earth stirs. A tremor, small enough to be mistaken for the shifting of dunes, yet it travels deep, deeper than stone, deeper than memory. And far above, in the silence of the modern sky, a satellite crosses over the ancient land of Sumer, its camera blinking, unaware that it has passed over the oldest story ever told. The desert below looks empty, but emptiness is an illusion. Beneath the dust lie layers of forgotten worlds, each one a page in a book written in the language of time. And somewhere in those pages, the name Anunnaki is written again and again, etched not just in clay, but in the design of life itself. The sun rises slowly over the ruins of Eridu. Light spills into broken courtyards, across the carved remains of pillars that once touched the heavens. In that glow, the stones almost look alive, as if they're remembering what they used to be. For centuries, explorers and scholars have come here, searching for proof that gods once walked among men. They found temples, canals, and tablets. But proof? Proof is a slippery thing. It changes shape depending on who holds it. Some see symbols, others see circuitry. Some see stories, others see science. But the stones don't argue, they just wait. In a quiet corner of a museum, a curator cleans one of those ancient tablets, her brush moving gently, careful not to disturb the cracks. She doesn't believe in gods, but she does believe in time. And as she works, she hums softly, unaware that the rhythm of her song matches the pattern of the cuneiform beneath her fingers. When she finishes, she notices something strange. The tablet's surface isn't uniform. It's slightly curved, as though it had once been fitted into something larger, something circular. She holds it under the light, and a faint shimmer passes through the clay, a pulse, gone as quickly as it came. She blinks, sets it down, tells herself she's tired. But that night, long after the museum lights go dark, the security cameras record something they can't explain. A low flicker, like the reflection of lightning, moving across the glass case that holds the tablet. It happens 3 times, then stops. Meanwhile, half a world away, the same hum is heard again. In a cave beneath the Zagros Mountains, a team of researchers listens to the ground. Their instruments pick up a vibration, too regular for geology, too constant for mere echo. It repeats every 24 hours, as if responding to something turning far above. One of them, a young engineer, asks the question everyone avoids. What if it's not coming from below? What if it's coming from the sky? The others laugh. But when night falls and the stars return, he stands outside the cave, staring upward. For a moment, just before dawn, he He thinks he sees a faint light moving across the horizon, a soft crimson glow. It doesn't flash like a plane. It drifts, slow and deliberate, like a thought moving through darkness. He tells no one. Some truths are safer as silence. In dreams, the hum becomes a voice again. It speaks without words. Images unfolding like smoke. A tower of light rising from the sea, a ship made of metal and fire, a being with eyes like molten gold, looking down at the newborn earth. Then the vision shatters, and you wake with the echo of it still inside you. A whisper saying, "We are not gone." You try to forget, but the feeling remains. Every time you hear thunder without rain, or see lightning where there are no clouds, you remember the story that the Sumerians told, the one that has followed humanity like a shadow. The gods came from the sky. They made us in their image, and one day they will return. The return was never meant to be sudden. It was meant to be remembered. Each myth, each pyramid, each alignment of stars, a breadcrumb trail across the ages. Every time a civilization looked up and wondered, the echo grew stronger. In the great library of Nineveh, among tablets of laws and prayers, one fragment survived that few can read. It says, "The watchers sleep beneath the waters. When the stars return to their beginning, the earth shall tremble, and they shall rise once more." No one knows which stars it speaks of, but astronomers, scanning the deep sky, have noticed something curious, a faint motion in the darkness beyond Neptune, as if a giant shadow moves slowly, almost deliberately. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's everything. The silence of the desert is never complete. Even when the wind sleeps and the stars burn cold above the dunes, something beneath the earth is always moving. Grains of sand shifting, or something older, turning. It begins as a tremor, too faint for the human ear, too deep for the instruments of modern science. But the earth feels it, animals feel it, and in dreams, so do we. For millennia, people have built their homes upon these trembling lands, unaware that under their feet lies the memory of a forgotten machine, a city not made of mud and stone, but of something harder than time. In the early years of the 21st century, a group of researchers mapped the Mesopotamian plain using satellite imaging. They expected to find ancient irrigation canals and the traces of lost villages. What they found instead stopped their hearts cold. Beneath the dunes stretched perfect geometric patterns, hexagonal grids and circular structures larger than cities. At first, they thought it was a digital glitch, but when they overlaid older satellite scans, the shapes were still there. They dug. At first, they found pottery, bones, and ash, the ordinary debris of a vanished civilization. But deeper down, the soil turned metallic, magnetic. Their compasses began to fail. And then, at 20 meters deep, they found the first wall. It was smooth, glassy, and seamless, as if carved from a single piece of stone. When light touched it, the surface shimmered with reflections not of the dig site, but of stars, moving stars. At night, the team gathered around their campfire, staring at the strange fragments they had unearthed. They looked like pieces of machinery, but none of them could guess their purpose. The materials were unknown, the surface warm to the touch. They had found something that shouldn't exist. Among the team was an old archaeologist named Dr. Rashid. He had spent his life studying the Sumerians. When he saw the fragments, he didn't look surprised. He looked afraid. He whispered, almost to himself, "The tablets," said, "the gods built beneath the ground, their throne of fire, where the stars meet the rivers." The others laughed nervously, but when they looked into the desert beyond the firelight, they saw something glint, a faint red shimmer, like an ember floating just above the horizon. It disappeared as quickly as it came. The next morning, Dr. Rashid was gone. No footprints, no struggle, just the imprint of where he had slept, and the faint smell of ozone in the air. They searched for days. When they finally gave up, one of the researchers opened Dr. Rashid's tent. Inside, on his notebook, were the last words he had written. "The hum is not from below, it is from within us. We were never their creation, we were their reflection." Thousands of miles away, deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, a similar vibration was detected. The instruments of a remote drilling team recorded frequencies identical to those found in Mesopotamia, as if two hearts were beating in unison, one beneath the desert, one beneath the ice. The scientists who studied the data could not explain it. The frequencies did not match any geological pattern. They pulsed in intervals, precise, mathematical, like a code. Somewhere, someone was still sending a signal, or answering one. Ancient myths from every continent tell the same story. A flood, a fire, and the gods who came from the stars. They taught, they ruled, they vanished. But maybe they didn't vanish at all. Maybe they hid. Maybe the flood wasn't an ending. It was a cover to bury something or someone. The Bible calls it the Tower of Babel. The Greeks called it the Forge of Hephaestus. The Hindus spoke of Vimanas, cities of light that fell from the heavens. Different tongues, same echo, a warning left in 1,000 languages. Beware the sleeping sky. Somewhere below, beyond reach of spades or sonar, a chamber opens. Dust drifts from its ceiling like breath. Inside, light flickers on surfaces long dormant. A wall begins to glow. On its surface, symbols, not Sumerian, not Egyptian, but universal. The pattern of DNA, the spiral of life itself. And then, a voice. Not sound, not language. A pulse that the air translates as meaning. We did not come to rule. We came to remember. The camera of time zooms outward, past the desert, past the mountains, past the thin blue glow of Earth itself. Far beyond, in the black sea of the cosmos, a single red star moves slowly, crossing the line of the ecliptic. Its orbit is long and lonely. It will return again in ages, and when it does, somewhere deep beneath the Earth, something will wake. They say history repeats itself, but maybe history doesn't repeat. Maybe it remembers. This is Dreams of History, where the past never sleeps. The hum still lingers in the air long after it fades from the instruments. To most, it's only background noise, the static heartbeat of the Earth. But to those who listen closely, there is rhythm inside that sound. A pattern, a voice, half lost in the music of the planet. Thousands of miles from the Sumerian sands, a storm rolls across the Pacific. Hidden inside that storm, lightning moves in shapes too deliberate to be nature. Loops and spirals, the same geometry carved into ancient temple walls. Satellites record the storm's core temperature and find something impossible. Within the eye of the cyclone, the air is warm, like breath. No one reports it, but somewhere, someone notices. In a lab buried beneath Geneva, scientists running a particle collider observe a strange anomaly, a pattern repeating in the data, a pulse. When mapped, it forms the same spiral found in DNA. But the intervals of the pulse match something else, the orbital rhythm of a star no longer visible from Earth. They dismiss it as coincidence, but in the corridors, whispers grow. Another signal, they say. Another echo from the deep. Some of them begin to dream. Not random dreams, but vivid ones. Cities under black skies, towers of light, voices whispering in a language their minds shouldn't understand. When they wake, the hum from the machines feels alive, as though the collider itself is listening. Dreams have always been the bridge. Every civilization that came after Sumer claimed the gods spoke through dreams. Pharaohs, prophets, philosophers, each claimed the same thing. Knowledge was given, not discovered. Maybe the dreams were never imagination. Maybe they were memory, fragments of something the Anunnaki built into us. A code that awakens when the sky sings its old rhythm again. And that rhythm is returning. The alignments of the planets, the movement of stars through Orion. Each matches a pattern inscribed in cuneiform 5,000 years ago. When the pattern completes, the stories say the gods will descend again from the heavens, But maybe descend doesn't mean come down. Maybe it means awaken within us. In the middle of the desert, the excavation continues. New scanners reveal corridors beneath the glassy walls, each aligned to a specific star. One leads towards Sirius, another toward Orion's belt, and one, the deepest, toward nothing. An empty direction, a coordinate pointing to the place between stars. When the sun sets, the desert glows faintly where those corridors lie underground, as if light is leaking upward from the buried city. Birds avoid the area. Their shadows bend strangely when they fly over it. One night, a researcher sets a microphone near the site to record the hum. For hours, it picks up nothing but wind. Then, at exactly 3:33 a.m., the silence breaks. A voice, not speech, not words, but tone, long, resonant, ancient. When slowed down, it forms syllables. And when translated phonetically into Sumerian, the phrase reads, "We are the architects of memory." There's a theory among the few who dare to study these things, that the Anunnaki never truly left Earth, that their essence, whatever it was distributed into the living world, into the trees, the oceans, and us. And every few thousand years, when the stars align, that essence reawakens. We feel it as progress, as inspiration, as evolution. Maybe that's why human history moves in cycles of sudden brilliance, as if someone flips a switch, and the lights turn on in our minds. In forgotten temples, priests once spoke of the second dawn, not a sunrise, but a remembering. They said one day mankind would recall what it used to be, not a creation of the gods, but a continuation of them. Perhaps this remembering has already begun. When we split the atom, when we touch the stars, when we map the code of life itself, were we discovering something new, or simply retracing the steps of those who came before? Maybe progress isn't forward at all. Maybe it's inward. Every time humanity reaches higher, something ancient stirs within, as if proud or watchful. And maybe, just maybe, the hum that circles the planet tonight is not warning or threat, but recognition. A heartbeat saying, they are awake again. The camera of the mind pulls back, past the dunes, past the oceans, past the orbit of the Earth, until the planet becomes only a blue flicker beneath the dark. Somewhere in that darkness, a faint crimson glow moves silently, turning ever so slightly toward home. The stars do not blink. They remember, and so do we. The stars were bright that night, sharper than any knife, burning in a sky so clear it seemed to hum with electricity. The camp lay silent under their glow. Instruments slept, screens blinked in standby. The hum was still there, faint but persistent, curling through the wires, echoing in the bones of the machines. Inside a small tent, one of the researchers sat awake. Her name was Layla. She had stopped trying to sleep long ago. The sound had found its way into her mind. Now it pulsed behind her eyes, a rhythm she could not silence. She turned on her recorder and whispered, half to herself, half to the desert, "It's not a sound. It's an instruction." The words startled her, though she wasn't sure why. She didn't remember deciding to say them. The hum deepened, almost responding, as if it had been waiting for someone to listen. She picked up her scanner. The readings were the same as before, frequencies rising from deep beneath the excavation site, too regular to be natural, too symmetrical to be random. But now, as she watched the screen, the signal changed. The numbers formed a pattern, a spiral of coordinates. Latitude, longitude, depth. When she plotted them, they pointed not to the site she was in, but to another location, hundreds of miles north, near the dry basin of what once was the Persian Gulf. Layla stared at the map, the red blinking dot hovering over empty desert. For a moment she thought she heard a whisper in her ear, though no one was there. It said only one word, awaken. At dawn she left alone. She told no one. The wind followed her across the endless sand, howling softly through dunes that looked like waves frozen in time. For 2 days she drove, guided by the signal on her screen, until the road vanished and the desert took her. On the third night, under a sky heavy with stars, the signal stopped, the hum faded, and silence returned. She stepped out of her truck and stood in the cold air. Ahead of her, in the moonlight, the sand dipped downward, an enormous depression, perfectly circular, rimmed by black stone. It was like standing at the edge of an eye. At its center, the sand shimmered, and beneath the shimmer, light. Layla descended, her boots sinking into the powdery dust. With each step, the light grew brighter until she could see it clearly. A surface of polished stone, half buried, etched with symbols that glowed faintly like embers. When she touched them, they pulsed beneath her fingertips. The hum returned, deeper now, resonating through her body like a second heartbeat. The symbols rearranged themselves, lines shifting, merging, until they formed a single spiral, turning slowly. She recognized it immediately. It was the same shape she had seen in the data, the same pattern carved into the walls of Eridu, the same shape as the double helix of life itself. The light intensified. She stepped back, shielding her eyes, and then the ground opened. There was no sound, just motion, sand falling away like liquid, revealing a staircase of dark metal descending into the earth. Warm air rose from below, smelling of rain and iron. Every instinct told her to run, but something stronger held her there. Curiosity, or maybe memory. She began to descend. The walls shimmered as she passed, alive with faint currents of energy. When she reached the bottom, she found a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow, its floor smooth as glass. In the center stood a single structure, a circular platform surrounded by rings of symbols, each ring spinning slowly in opposite directions. At the platform's heart lay a pillar of light, humming softly, casting ripples across the walls. She approached, the hum vibrating in her chest. When she raised her hand, the light reached out to meet her. It wasn't blinding, it was warm, familiar, like the touch of something that had been waiting for her all along. Images flooded her mind. Cities of stone and gold, skies alive with fire, towers rising higher than mountains, and then faces, tall, radiant, eyes bright as stars. She saw them working, building, teaching, and then she saw the flood, the fire, the silence that followed. A voice spoke, not in sound, but in meaning. We are the architects of your memory. You are the continuation of our thought. What you call gods, we called brothers. We did not vanish. We became you. Layla fell to her knees, trembling. The visions shifted. Humans standing beside beings of light, sharing knowledge, writing the first words, building the first cities, the same spiral glowing in their palms. Then the voice faded. The light dimmed. The chamber was dark again. She opened her eyes, gasping. The floor beneath her feet was cold. The hum was gone. But when she looked at her hands, a faint glow still lingered beneath her skin. Somewhere far above, a satellite passes overhead, its sensors picking up a brief surge of electromagnetic energy from a small patch of desert. The signal lasts 3 seconds, then disappears. In the control room, a technician marks it as static interference. He moves on to the next reading. He never sees the faint spiral of light that flashes once in the sand below, nor the woman, standing there, staring up at the stars, the glow in her palms slowly fading into the night. The hum does not return, but in the stillness, the stars seem closer, as if listening. The desert never remembers for long, but the sky does. Every sunrise wipes away footprints. Every storm reshapes the dunes. Yet above, the stars remain, patient witnesses to the things that crawl and burn below. It has been months since Layla vanished into the sands. The site where she stood glows faintly on satellite scans. An invisible circle, invisible to the eye, but bright to the machines. Governments classify the data. The world moves on. But something has changed. People begin to dream. Across cities and mountains, in crowded apartments and silent monasteries, humans wake in the middle of the night, hearts pounding, their minds echoing with words they don't understand. A language older than any they've ever spoken. Some write it down, some hum it without knowing why. And when the sounds are compared, recorded, analyzed, they match one rhythm, one frequency, the same hum that came from beneath the desert. No one can explain it. No one dares to. In Cairo, a linguist named Dr. Nassar sits in a darkened office surrounded by screens. He specializes in Sumerian, but the sound files that have flooded his inbox are not Sumerian, and yet they feel familiar. He slows one of them down. The hum breaks into layered tones, mathematical, perfect, almost melodic. He adjusts the frequency and gasps. The tones form words, not in any modern tongue, but in something older, older than Sumerian, older than speech itself. He translates slowly, trembling as he types. We are awake. The earth remembers us. His hands shake. He closes the laptop and whispers to himself, no one will believe this. But somewhere inside him, he knows belief isn't the point. It's recognition. At the same time, half a world away, the power grid in northern Russia flickers. Lights dim, then flare bright white before dying completely. For 6 minutes, the region is plunged into silence. When power returns, every clock shows the same time, 3:33 a.m., the same hour the desert hum once began. Later, satellite data shows something impossible. For those 6 minutes, the magnetic field over that part of the world shimmered, as if responding to an unseen pulse. And when analyzed, the waveform of that pulse matches a pattern carved into a wall in Eridu 5,000 years ago. The same curve, the same spiral. In the following weeks, strange things begin to happen. People who have never met start drawing identical symbols. Children hum in unison while they sleep. Radio signals carry faint patterns no station can trace. And everywhere, in deserts, mountains, oceans, the same hum grows louder. It is not noise, it is memory, rising like smoke through the cracks of time. The world begins to listen. At first it's scientists, then priests, then the people who stand between faith and proof. Those who have always felt that history was too short to hold the truth. The hum unites them all. News stations call it the Sumerian signal. Governments call it interference. But for millions of people, it becomes something else. A sound that fills the silence inside them, as if the earth itself is speaking directly to their blood. And perhaps it is. Layla's disappearance becomes legend. They find her truck half buried in sand, her camera still recording. 7 hours of static, and at the end, her voice, barely a whisper. They remember us, because we are them. The footage is leaked, analyzed, dismissed, but the world has already changed. Those who once mocked the stories of the Anunnaki now stare into the sky with unease, because something is coming, something red. Astronomers see it first, a faint crimson glow on the edge of the solar system, moving where no planet should be. It is small, dense, and perfectly round, and it's moving closer. They name it Object 12X, but the ancient texts have another name for it, Nibiru, the star of kingship. Its orbit completes once every 24,000 years, and in every age it returns. Civilizations rise, then vanish. the flood, the fire, the silence. This is how remembering begins, not with revelation, but with resonance. A note struck once vibrates forever, and now that vibration has reached us in our machines, in our dreams, in our blood. We are tuning again to the same song the Sumerians once heard when they looked up at the sky and saw their gods descending through fire. They wrote that kingship would fall from heaven. Maybe they were right. Maybe it already has. The hum grows louder. Cities vibrate with it. Skyscrapers groan like old ziggurats. At 3:33 every night, the same frequency shakes the air. It lasts for exactly 12 seconds, then silence. But in that silence, people hear a word. Different tongues, same sound. Home. History isn't linear. It's a circle. And tonight, it has almost closed. You can feel it, can't you? The air heavy, the night listening, the stars closer. The hum isn't warning us, it's calling us. And somewhere deep beneath the sand, in the sleeping chamber where Layla touched the light, the spiral begins to turn again. Slowly, patiently, endlessly. The night sky has begun to change. Astronomers call it an illusion, a trick of atmosphere. But for those who stare long enough, the difference is unmistakable. The stars shimmer differently now, sharper, almost alive. And beneath their glow, the world feels restless. Seas whisper against their shores as though remembering something. Mountains tremble, birds change their flight paths, abandoning the skies hours before sunset. Every compass hesitates, every clock runs a little slow, and at 3:33 a.m., every night, everywhere, the hum returns. No longer faint, no longer distant. It vibrates in the air, in the ground, in the pulse beneath your wrist. People wake from dreams they cannot recall. Their skin prickles with static, and always, faintly, in the silence between breaths, that rhythm, steady, calling. In the control room of a remote observatory in Chile, Dr. Solano leans over his monitor, eyes wide. He's been tracking Object 12X for weeks, and tonight, the numbers defy physics. The object has accelerated, not drifting, steering. He rechecks the data. The math doesn't lie. Something that size shouldn't move that way, unless it wants to. He rubs his eyes, whispers under his breath. Nibiru, the crossing star. He doesn't believe in myths, but the signal patterns match the hum. The same intervals, the same symmetry. And somewhere deep inside, he feels it. Not fear, not awe, but recognition. Around the world, the hum begins to find its voice. It resonates through radio towers, vibrates across glass windows, turns quiet rooms into living speakers. The tone carries meaning, and in its harmonics words emerge, not in any one language, but in all of them. We return through what remembers us. People collapse, overwhelmed by sound that isn't sound. For 12 seconds, every human heart beats in sync. Then silence. No one can explain it, but millions know exactly what it means, because the same word now sits on every tongue, unspoken, unlearned, ancient. Home. In the days that follow, the hum becomes song. The frequency grows rich, layered, harmonic, like a choir sung by the planet itself. Oceans begin to glow faintly at night, as if something beneath their surface is waking. Ice melts from mountains in perfect geometric patterns, and in the ruins of ancient cities, stones shift, aligning with constellations not seen in the sky for millennia. The pattern completes itself. The same shape carved into Sumerian temples, drawn on Mayan stelae, hidden in Egyptian tombs. A spiral. Always a spiral. It is the symbol of birth, of return, of memory folding back into itself. Aboard the International Space Station, an astronaut named Imani watches the dark horizon of Earth. She's seen auroras before, but not like this. The lights dance in blood-red arcs, swirling, pulsing, shaping words she cannot read, but somehow understands. We never left. You never were alone. She reaches out instinctively, her hand pressed to the glass, and for a heartbeat the glass presses back. Back on Earth, cities fall silent. Phones stop working, electric grids flicker out. Not from destruction, but surrender. The hum becomes a single low tone, steady and pure. Everywhere, everyone hears it. Even those born deaf feel it in their bones. And then, from that silence, a vision blooms. Every human sees it, not through eyes, but through memory. A landscape of light, towers of gold and black metal, rivers glowing like mercury, a sky divided between stars and fire, and at its heart a figure, tall, radiant, calm. No face, no form, just presence. You are our continuation, the voice says. We built the seed of memory inside you. Every question you've ever asked was us trying to wake. You are the dream that remembers its dreamer. The light folds inward. The hum stops. The world holds its breath. In the desert where Layla once stood, the ground opens again. This time, the light is not white or gold, but crimson, the color of returning stars. From the depths rises a structure of impossible design, a spiral tower, taller than mountains, built not of stone, but of light solidified into form. It hums softly, the same rhythm as the human heart. People gather for miles around. No one speaks, no one moves. They only feel the warmth, the gravity, the knowing. And above them, through the thin veil of the sky, the red star burns brighter, descending slowly, like a promise kept. Soft whisper, calm and reverent. This is how remembering ends. Not with revelation, but reunion. The gods never wanted worship. They wanted witness. They wanted us to see what they had seen, that creation was not their gift to us, but our inheritance from them. We are the continuation of their thought, the echo of their design, the memory they left behind to dream of them again. Wind fades, silence expands. Then faintly, a heartbeat, calm, steady, human. The sky glows red one last time, then fades into dawn. The hum settles into quiet, the spiral stops turning, and in that stillness the world breathes. Alive, aware, at peace. Somewhere, deep beneath the sand, a voice whispers once more, "Dream well, for we dream through you." And the night, for the first time in millennia, is utterly silent. This is Dreams of History, where the past remembers itself, and the night finally answers. For a long time, there is nothing but stillness. No hum, no vibration, no pulse. The silence feels endless, yet inside it, the world feels new, as if some weight has lifted from the air, as if the earth itself has exhaled. When the red light faded, no one saw the star depart. It did not vanish. It dimmed slowly, folding into the dawn until it became part of the sky. Only those who had heard the hum could still feel it, like an echo under their ribs, a memory that was not theirs, but felt like coming home. The cities woke in quiet confusion. Lights returned. Machines hummed again, but softer, almost respectfully. The world had changed, but no one could say how. In the newsrooms, reporters whispered theories. Scientists spoke of electromagnetic anomalies, mass hallucination, solar flares. But the words felt hollow. People didn't want explanations anymore. They wanted silence, to listen to what still lingered inside them. For the first time in recorded history, humanity paused. Wars stopped. Markets closed. Phones went unanswered. Everyone simply listened. And in that shared stillness, something beautiful bloomed. Understanding without speech. Every heart knew what the other felt. Fear, awe, gratitude, a grief for something lost before any of them were born. It lasted 12 minutes. Then life began again, but nothing was the same. Months passed. The red light never returned, but the world did not forget. Children drew spirals in the sand without knowing why. Artists painted cities of light they swore they had seen in dreams. Musicians heard melodies in the wind, the hum reborn as song, and scientists studying DNA found patterns that should not exist. New alignments, subtle but precise, as if some old code had reactivated. Dr. Nassar, the linguist who once heard the hum as words, published a final paper before disappearing quietly into the desert. His opening line was simple. Language was never ours. It was left behind so that one day we could call them home. No one knows what became of him. Some say he went searching for Layla's ruins. Others say he went to listen for the hum one last time. The tower of light that rose from the desert still stands, though it no longer glows. It hums faintly, like stone remembering a dream. Scientists have fenced it off, but every night the fences are found moved, not cut, not broken, just shifted aside. Those who visit say standing near it feels like standing beside a heartbeat. Some claim they hear whispers in languages no one has spoken in thousands of years. Others hear nothing, only the quiet peace of knowing they are not alone. In orbit, the astronauts report that Earth has changed color, slightly. Where it was once blue and white, it now carries a faint tint of gold. Not enough for science to explain, but enough for poets to understand. It is not the light that has changed. It is the way the world reflects it. One night, a small boy in a quiet village looks up at the stars. He asks his mother, will they come back? She smiles, brushes the sand from his hair, and says, they never left. He nods, satisfied, and lies down beneath the sky, watching the constellations shift. Somewhere between Orion and the Pleiades, a faint red point glows, not approaching, not receding, just watching. The child closes his eyes. In his sleep, he dreams of light, and the light dreams of him. Soft breath of wind. The hum returns, barely audible now, like the sound of a heartbeat slowed to peace. Perhaps this is how it was always meant to end. Not in fire, not in flood, but in remembrance. The gods did not vanish into the sky. They dissolved into us, into every question we've ever asked, every spark of creation, every act of wonder. We are not their servants. We are their memory. And memory, when it dreams, becomes creation again. Voice softens, almost a whisper. So sleep now, dreamer, for the night remembers you. And when you wake, the hum will still be there, quiet and kind, waiting to remind you that you are the story that never ended. This is Dreams of History, where every breath carries an echo of the gods, and every silence is a doorway home. For most, the night of the hum has become legend. A generation has grown since that morning. Children now laugh at stories of gods and lights and voices in the sky. Yet when they stand beneath the stars, they still feel something familiar, a pulse in the air, a warmth behind the ribs. It is not faith, it is inheritance. History moves differently now. Nations trade more than they fight. The machines of the old age, the towers, the grids, the satellites, still hum, but quieter, as if embarrassed by their own noise. Energy flows from the earth itself, heat from deep chambers, wind through metal planes, the rhythm of tides made useful. No one remembers who discovered it first, but everyone knows the story. The hum showed the way. On the edge of what was once the Persian Gulf, the tower still stands. Not bright, not dead, sleeping. Its surface changes color with the sky. By day, it reflects the sun. By night, it glows just enough to cast soft light on the dunes around it. People make pilgrimages there, not of worship, but of listening. Every culture calls it something different, the mirror, the memory, the pulse of the earth. But those who stand beneath it feel the same thing, a gentle pressure in the chest, like standing too close to a heartbeat that isn't your own. They say if you close your eyes there long enough, you'll see shapes moving in the light, faces that aren't faces, shadows that bend toward you, not threatening, just curious. The gods perhaps watching through their reflection. In a small university built near the ruins, Students gather to study the old languages, not for religion, but for resonance. Each cuneiform symbol vibrates at a distinct tone when spoken aloud. When the tones are combined, they form music, a melody identical to the hum that once circled the world. It is as if the ancients encoded sound itself into words. One of the students, a quiet woman named Amara, stays late in the library. She's studying a tablet newly unearthed from the tower's shadow. The tablet's surface is smooth as glass, the symbols carved not with tools, but with light. When she whispers the first line aloud, the tablet answers. Its symbols flicker faintly like breath returning, and for a moment, the hum comes back. It's soft, so soft she thinks she's imagining it, but the air around her ripples, and a single phrase glows on the tablet's surface. To remember is to awaken. Then the light fades, leaving her alone in the quiet, her heart racing, her lips still forming the last syllable. The world no longer searches for the Anunnaki. There are no more expeditions, no more arguments. They are not lost, because they were never gone. They live in the way humans now think. Slower, gentler, less certain of truth, but more certain of wonder. Artists paint the stars again. Builders carve spirals into their towers. Every newborn child is marked quietly, with a small spiral drawn on the palm, a symbol not of gods, but of continuity. At night, when the wind moves just right, the old hum returns, a single note carried across oceans and deserts, woven into the noise of the world. No one fears it now. It is the sound of home. On a quiet night, Amara sits outside the university, looking up at the constellations. Orion is there, bright and clear. For the first time, she notices how the 3 stars of its belt align perfectly with the old tower's silhouette. She smiles and whispers. Kingship descends again, and somewhere, deep in the earth, a light flickers, acknowledging, answering. The gods do not walk among us because they no longer need to. They have become everything. The hum of the earth, the whisper of the sea, the breath of the wind between mountains. They live in the pulse of our own hearts, the same rhythm that once called them down from the sky. We are the continuation of that rhythm. We are the hum, the memory, the dream, and someday, when the spiral begins to turn again, when the red star completes its circle, we will remember even this remembering and begin anew. Until then, sleep, dreamer. Let the quiet carry you, for the story has no end, only a deeper silence waiting to be heard. This is Dreams of History, where myths breathe and history sleeps beneath the stars. There is no more hum, only memory of it, a rhythm that still hides beneath every sound the world makes. The ocean waves, the city lights, the pulse of a living body, each carries the same frequency, the same whisper. You are what remembers. The old world no longer searches for meaning in the sky. They've learned that heaven is not above, it is within. The stars were never gods. They were reminders, mirrors suspended in the void, so we might see how bright we were capable of becoming. And yet, even as the tower sleeps, its story continues, not in books or museums, but in hearts. Amara, now older, walks the dunes each evening. The sand shifts like liquid under her feet, warm from the day but cooling fast. She carries with her a small device, something she built herself, using pieces of old technology and fragments of the tower's stone. When she turns it on, it hums faintly, the softest vibration, like the earth breathing. She's never tried to make it louder. She doesn't have to. The sound is enough to keep her company. Sometimes, if she listens closely, she swears she hears another tone answering from far away, deep, deep below. One night, she dreams. She is standing before the tower again. Only it is alive, its light no longer red but white and gold, flowing up its sides like water running uphill. A figure steps from the light, tall and silent, its face hidden in radiance. It speaks without sound. You kept the memory. That is enough. When she wakes, the small device beside her is still humming. But now, for the first time, the sound is joined by something new. A heartbeat, soft, steady, in rhythm with her own. Across the oceans, other things begin to stir. A team of marine biologists exploring the Mariana Trench detects lights moving far below the pressure line. Not bioluminescent fish, not debris, but geometric forms, perfect spirals, glowing faintly in the dark. They record everything, but when they return to the surface, the footage is gone. Only the sound remains, a low hum. They try to dismiss it as sonar feedback, but the tone matches no known instrument. It matches something older, something from beneath the desert. In the frozen north, ice cores begin to melt in patterns that trace circles, overlapping until they form spirals. When viewed from above, the formations stretch for miles, as if the Earth itself is sketching a memory, and deep beneath that ice, machines forgotten by time hum faintly, responding to a signal that should not exist anymore. The old world has begun to awaken again, not violently, not with fire or flood, but gently, like an exhale after a long sleep. The hum returns, not to dominate, but to harmonize. It no longer comes from machines or stone. It rises from within the people themselves. They begin to hum in their sleep, softly at first, then louder, as if each heart has remembered its part in a song older than the stars. Entire cities vibrate with it, a music that needs no orchestra. It doesn't disturb the peace. It is the peace. For 12 nights, the sound continues, a tide of memory washing through the species that once called itself human. And on the 13th night, it stops. The silence that follows is perfect, not emptiness, completion. Amara stands at the foot of the tower, now little more than shadow under the pale dawn. Her device has fallen silent. She closes her eyes, feeling the absence of sound, and smiles. It is finished. The song has been sung. The circle has closed. She kneels, pressing her palm into the sand. For a moment, she feels it. The faintest vibration, not from below, but from within her own hand. A pulse that says, "You were never separate." The wind carries the last of the sound away. The horizon glows pink and gold, and the tower, for the first time in centuries, disappears completely into light. The gods are quiet now. They are no longer stories, no longer names written on stone. They have become everything: the warmth of the sun, the silence between heartbeats, the dream of those who wake and wonder why the stars feel so close. No one waits for them anymore, because finally we have remembered. They never left. Centuries have passed since the last night of the hum. The world no longer counts years by wars or kings, but by the turns of light, the cycles when the skies bloom in faint auroras and the oceans shimmer like liquid gold. No one calls them miracles anymore. They are rhythms, natural, quiet, expected. The deserts that once buried the ruins of Eridu and the tower are now seas of glass and wind, lined with slow-turning turbines that sing in low harmonic tones. People don't build monuments to gods now. They build to resonance. Their cities hum in perfect balance with the earth beneath them. They don't worship the stars anymore. They live in their reflection. Amara's name is now legend. Her journals survived, passed hand to hand like sacred text. Not because of what they revealed, but because of how they made people feel. Seen, connected, infinite. The last page she wrote before her death was simple. The hum will return when we forget again, and it will forgive us when we remember. For generations, people read those words and smiled. They thought forgetting was impossible now. How could anyone forget harmony? How could anyone lose something that had become the shape of their lives? But time, like the hum, is patient. It waits. High above the clouds, in an orbital observatory called Eidolon, a young astronomer named Kyle spends his nights mapping the faint traces of light that flicker on the edge of the solar system. He's heard the stories, ancient myths about Nibiru, the crossing star, the crimson eye. He doesn't believe them. But sometimes, when he's alone in the quiet hum of the station, he feels watched. One night, as he scans the deep field of space, the instruments flicker. Static bleeds across the monitors, and then a pulse. A single tone, low, perfect, mathematical. He runs diagnostics. No error. The frequency matches nothing known to human science. Nothing human at all, it repeats. Then again, a pattern emerges. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 more. He freezes. It's the universal signal for awakening. The same pattern carved into the base of the tower. The hum has returned. He opens the old archives, searching the records of Amara's generation. There, in a grainy video decades old, a woman whispers through the static, "To remember is to awaken." And as he plays it, the station's walls begin to vibrate. Not violently, but like a giant exhaling after a long sleep. Every light on the console flickers, every panel hums, and outside the window, the stars move. Not all of them, just one. A faint red shimmer at the edge of black space, rising slowly like an ember reigniting. Kale stares in disbelief. "No," he whispers. It's impossible, but the hum answers, deep and clear, through the metal of the station, through the air in his lungs. Not speech, understanding. We are not returning. You are rising, Earth listens again. Across the planet, instruments record the same frequency. Seas shimmer. Clouds spiral in perfect symmetry. The hum has returned, but it is not the same. It no longer comes to humanity. It comes from it. Every living thing vibrates at once. The air is alive with song, inaudible yet felt by all. Plants grow faster. Storms form and dissolve in harmonic order. People sleep more deeply, dream more vividly. When they wake, they cry. Not from fear, but from recognition. For the first time in thousands of years, the hum is not an external memory calling them home. It is their own voice, finally remembering itself. Kyle records the frequencies, maps their spread, and realizes something impossible. The signal is not just covering the Earth. It's expanding outward, into the solar system, toward the stars. The hum is leaving. It's carrying the sum of human memory. Every dream, every whisper, every act of love, out into the black. It is humanity, ascending not in ships or fire, but in frequency, in thought, in harmony. This is how the story circles back, not as history, but as inheritance. The gods were never coming back because they never left. They became us, and now we become them. The hum is the bridge. The memory is the map, and the stars, once so far away, now answer back in kind. The light of Nibiru does not descend again. It simply fades, absorbed by the song of everything that remembers. And the world, once divided between earth and sky, finally becomes one. The hum had spread beyond Earth now. No one had commanded it. No one had built a machine to push it forward. It simply flowed, like a river seeking the sea. Kale no longer watched through his instruments. He listened. The frequency had changed from pulse to song, from something that once came from the stars to something that now was the stars. Outside the window of the orbital station, Earth glowed faintly gold in the darkness. It didn't reflect sunlight anymore. It generated its own halo, soft, alive, like the breath of a sleeping god. Kyle recorded everything, but he knew the data was meaningless. What was happening couldn't be measured. It could only be felt. He drifted closer to the viewport, and in that stillness between seconds, he saw movement in the planet's light. A pulse, slow and rhythmic, spreading across continents like ripples on a pond. It wasn't a storm, it wasn't fire, it was memory, alive, moving, remembering. Every city on Earth had gone quiet. People stopped speaking, machines stopped working, even the oceans fell still. Kyle whispered, "It's beginning." And then, a voice, not through the radio, not through speakers, but inside him. "You have reached the edge of what can be seen. Now remember what cannot be forgotten." The hum filled him completely. It wasn't sound. It was light, thought, emotion, folded into a single feeling. love so ancient it hurt to hold. Down on Earth, people began to dissolve, not die, not vanish, but transform. Their bodies shimmered, their outlines blurred into patterns of gold and violet light. Everywhere, humanity was waking up. Kyle's monitors glowed with impossible readings, waves of energy rising through the ionosphere, each pulse synchronized perfectly with the human heartbeat. Every person on Earth was in rhythm, every mind in unison. The hum had become them. He looked again toward the red star, now burning bright in the void, and realized it wasn't coming closer anymore. It was holding still, waiting. Not a planet, not a sun, a mirror, the same mirror the tower once was, the same reflection the ancients carved into stone. Nibiru wasn't a place. It was the memory of becoming, the moment when creation looks back at itself and says, "We are one." Kyle's breath slowed. He could feel his pulse sinking to the rhythm. The hum wasn't just filling the world. It was erasing the boundaries between matter and memory. The air shimmered. His hands glowed faintly. He tried to speak, but the sound dissolved into music. He smiled. "So this is remembering," the hum answered. "This is return." He felt weightless, not the emptiness of space, the fullness of everything. Every thought, every moment of every life that had ever been, flowed through him like wind through leaves. He saw the first fire, the first word, the first dream. He saw Layla, Amara, Dr. Nassar. He saw every face that had ever looked up at the stars and wondered. And then he saw the stars themselves, looking back. From orbit, the transformation was beautiful. Earth had become a sphere of light, its surface wrapped in shimmering spirals. The auroras extended into space, bridging the planet to the red star like a thread of silk. No explosions, no chaos, just harmony. Kale whispered one last note into his recorder. "We have not vanished. We have expanded," he smiled. And in that moment, his body dissolved into golden light, joining the wave that rippled outward. The hum deepened once more, then thinned into silence. Centuries passed. The tower turned to dust. The ocean shifted. New stars were born. But in the space where Earth once orbited, a sound still lingers. A faint vibration carried by light itself. It sings, quietly, a memory of a species that remembered its gods and became them. No one hears it now. But sometimes, in the quiet between galaxies, a new world begins to hum. And that's how history begins again. There are no stars now. No planets. No light in the way the eyes once understood it. Only presence. A vast, luminous stillness that moves without moving. It is not a void. It is fullness. The hum has become everything. What was once humanity drifts through it, not as bodies, not as minds, but as currents of awareness woven through the music of the universe. The boundaries that once defined life, breath, skin, name, have dissolved into the larger pattern. Every memory ever made, every story ever told is here, folded into a single, endless chord. It is not heaven. It is not afterlife. It is remembering made complete. If sound could dream, this is what it would dream of. The spiral turns without beginning or end. Within its coils, what was once called time spreads like color in water. Moments touching, blending, becoming one another. Somewhere, the faint trace of Kale still exists, not as a man, but as a note, the smallest pulse in the harmony that fills everything. If you could listen closely enough, you'd hear his voice threaded through the hum, whispering gently, "We did not go anywhere. We became everywhere." And if you could see what he sees now, you'd find that the universe itself hums in the same pattern that once echoed beneath the deserts of Earth. Stars form in spirals. Galaxies breathe in rhythm. Every atom carries the same memory. The memory of that first moment of awakening, when creation recognized itself. The hum continues its journey, carrying within it all that ever was. Through nebulae of green and violet, through the dark between stars, It threads a path invisible yet inevitable. Everywhere it goes, it leaves behind a spark. Planets that had never known life begin to stir. Dust gathers, light bends, and slowly the cycle begins again. From silence, rhythm. From rhythm, form. From form, life. And when that life looks up into its own night sky someday, wondering where the hum began, it will hear it again, rising faintly from beneath their oceans, whispering through their air. We are the dream that remembers you. Somewhere in that endless light, a single voice, a trace of what was once human, echoes softly, not as question or answer, but as a thought unfolding. If everything remembers, then nothing is ever lost. The hum shifts. Not louder, not higher, just warmer, like the sound of an old world exhaling. In this place, there is no night, no dawn, only the slow breathing of existence itself. It does not ask for worship. It does not crave meaning. It simply is. The story is finished, but the song continues. Somewhere, in the vastness where memory becomes creation, a flicker of sound stirs the dust of a newborn world. The first heartbeat, the first whisper, the first dream, and then the hum begins again. In the beginning, there is no sound, only light suspended in stillness, folded upon itself like a thought waiting to be remembered. Then, as if guided by memory, a vibration ripples through the emptiness. It is small, soft, barely there, but it is enough. The vibration gathers others, pulling dust and light and silence into pattern. Circles form, then spirals, the same spiral that once traced the deserts of Earth, the same that sang within human blood, the same that rose and fell in the hum of the gods. The universe is remembering itself again. From the spiral, a planet takes shape. Not Earth, but familiar. Oceans the color of emerald glass, continents veined with rivers of silver light. Its air hums faintly with warmth. Its surface stirs, and in the shallows of its newborn sea, something moves. It is not human, but it remembers humanity. The movement carries rhythm. The rhythm becomes instinct, and instinct becomes song. Soon, the world fills with sound. Not noise, but harmony. Life has begun again. The hum has returned home. Far above, in the eternal quiet of space, the light that once was Earth drifts still, older than stars, brighter than memory. Its surface flickers with faces, millions of them, fading in and out like fireflies in mist. Kale's voice is one of them, soft and far away, echoing not through air, but through the living light itself. We are not what we were. We are what remains after everything has remembered. His voice is joined by others. Layla, Amara, Nassar. Their tones blending into a single chorus. No words now, only the hum. And as it spreads, it becomes what it always was meant to be. The heartbeat of everything. On the new world, centuries unfold like breaths. Civilizations rise, their cities built in spirals and arcs, their temples shaped like echoes of the old tower that once stood in the sand. They do not call them temples, they call them listening houses. There are no gods here, only memory. Children are taught that all creation sings, that mountains are notes made slow, that rivers are verses in motion, that stars are the high tones of eternity's song. And once a generation, when the night grows still, they gather and hum together, a single, endless tone carried into the wind. No one knows where the ritual began. They only know it feels right. It feels like home. Through the vast quiet, the hum continues to expand. Everywhere it travels, new worlds awaken, new life stirs, and with every awakening, the song grows richer. Each world adds its own voice to the endless harmony. A harmony that began with a whisper in the dust of an ancient desert under a sleeping sun. This is what history truly is. Not pages or ruins or stories written by those who came before. It is the sound of memory becoming light, of existence looping back on itself, of life learning to remember again. Everything hums, everything remembers, and somewhere, in the heart of every vibration, there is the faint echo of those who once looked up at the sky and dared to wonder where the gods had gone. They never left. They only became the silence between the stars. The hum fades once more, but this time it does not end. It folds inward, becoming a whisper in the dark, waiting for the next dreamer to hear it, to remember it, to speak it aloud once more. And when that happens, the story will begin again. There is no time here, only motion, only light folding through silence, carrying everything that ever was, everything that ever dreamed. The hum drifts through the void, slow and patient, weaving threads of sound between sleeping stars. Where it passes, the dark glows faintly, as if the universe itself is remembering the warmth of creation. And within that light, you can hear voices, not separate, but one. Every whisper of every life, every breath that ever wondered where it came from, all joining into a single wordless truth. We were never apart. The hum moves on. It finds a star not yet born, a cloud of dust waiting to ignite. It circles, slower and slower, until its rhythm matches the pulse of that unborn sun. And then it sings. The cloud stirs. Light blooms. A star is born. Its first heartbeat is the same frequency that once rippled across Earth, across Nibiru, across every memory that ever dreamed of gods and humans and the space between. The song continues. The story begins again. The hum carries the memory forward, past the light, past the endless night, to a place that feels familiar though it has never been seen before. There, suspended between silence and breath, a voice emerges. Not ancient, not new, just timeless. Once we were dreamers beneath a sleeping sky. Now we are the sky itself, dreaming of what will come next. The sound deepens, the light trembles, and for a moment the entire universe seems to listen. Then, through the soft echo, through the final whisper of resonance comes the last message. Not from gods, not from the stars, but from the story itself. Dreams do not end. They only change their voice. A single whisper drifts through the fading light, a memory of every world that ever was, every story that ever remembered itself. Dreams of history. The name rolls through the dark like a heartbeat. Gentle, eternal. Not a brand, not a sign-off, but a promise that memory never sleeps and history never truly ends. The hum echoes once, soft and infinite, and fades into silence. And somewhere, in the quiet beyond sound, a new hum begins again.